Hey, Bright Lights, welcome back to the Space Doctor series on the Architecting channel. My name is Angela. I'm an architect and feng shui practitioner, and I make thoughtful weekly videos with the goal of demystifying the science behind design. So I've been doing this design work for a very long time, and I've spent a lot of time researching what space feels like and how the people who live, work, and play in the designs that I do can be their best selves in that space. It comes down to a term called salutogenesis, which is a Latin word coined by a medical sociologist named Aaron Antonovsky that means basically health generating. So we ask ourselves, how can we make space health generating? If you don't know, I have your answers. My goal with this series is to make it fun and easy to learn about the science without having to do a lot of research or being overloaded with a lot of facts. So we'll use my salutogenesis deck, which has two parts. There are foundational concepts around conditions that create well-being or take away from it. And then there are 5 main theories that are the core aspects of salutogenesis. And I've reinforced this with a lot of my work as a feng shui practitioner. So we'll talk about both the science and the feng shui behind everything each session. I've associated each of the aspects with a feng shui element. So the way that this works is I will draw a card from each section of the deck and talk about what we're learning in terms of how the cards relate to each other. So even if you have heard me talk about a given card before, there is so much to say. You're going to hear me say something different every time because I'm going to talk about it as it specifically relates to its companion card. So let's get going. The very first card I drew from the foundational concepts part of the deck is equity. Now, equity is about having equal opportunity. It's about fairness. It's about justice. And as you can see, the card here is a pizza that has been made by putting many different kinds of slices with different toppings on them together, which is really what we want to think about when we think about equity. Everyone has something meaningful to contribute. And of course, the pizza slices are triangles. Triangles represent strength. They're the building blocks of trusses that hold up buildings, right? That triangle represents unity and strength, and together the slices form a circle. And a circle is another sacred geometry that is about connection to oneness, to the divine. Circles create boundaries, and what is inside the boundary has a sense of belonging. So I want you to kind of think about equity as this pizza with different slices in it. And the companion card that goes with that comes from the self-efficacy part of the deck. Now, self-efficacy is a theory developed by Bandura that is about believing that you can. So, for example, you want to go on a diet. If you believe you can be successful at making this change in your life, even though it's hard, even though you might encounter setbacks, you won't take those setbacks as clues that you should give up. On the other hand, someone who doesn't believe they can will. And they've done studies that prove this. So when we think about self-efficacy, we're thinking about that fire element. Fire is the spirit, the will. Fire is all about believing and strength and courage and power. And the card that we drew out of this section of the deck is ergonomics. Now, ergonomics is also associated with a field of study called human factors. And it really is just about creating settings that allow people to do the work they're doing very well. Now you can see in the card what is showing up is a kitchen setting. And this kitchen is a typical kitchen, right? The counter heights are standard sizes, shelves are at typical heights to mount them. Problem is that there is no such thing as a typical sized person or a typically abled person. So, someone in a wheelchair would have a very hard time working in this kitchen because they wouldn't be able to reach things that were further back on the counter, or they might knock something over trying to get something else, or not have access to the high shelves. If you're short like me, you have to keep a step stool in your standard size kitchen because you can't reach the upper shelves. If you're very tall, probably get a backache if you're spending a lot of time chopping or working at counter height because the counter's too low for you. Similarly, in the workplace, we have standard heights for desktops and chairs. And even when companies do things like implement sit to stand desks, like my company did, the problem was the device sat on top of my standard size desktop, and that little bit of an inch made my wrist hurt in a matter of 5 minutes. So it's not just safety, but it's our musculoskeletal health that can get impacted. Lots of different things when we don't think about ergonomics. And ergonomics is very much tied to equity because when we have spaces that don't support a wide variety of physical and mental abilities to be able to contribute to their highest and best potential, we are losing the opportunity of what that person could bring. If they have to be on disability because they can't work, we're losing their contribution to the workforce. If we have kitchen tools that aren't ergonomic and someone with arthritis has to give up cooking, what does that take away from their independence or their quality of life? So think about your own home. Maybe it is your kitchen, but it could even be your living room. Do you notice that you get a backache if you have been sitting out watching TV or maybe curled up on your couch reading a book? It might be because the seating in your living room isn't ergonomically supporting you. The seating might be too high or too low. Maybe your home office, which for many people is really their kitchen or dining room table, isn't supporting you. In my home office, which is where I film this series, I have a desk that actually has the ability to raise and lower the height of it so you get it exactly the height you want. And did you know task chairs come in three sizes, A, B, and C? Most workplaces only buy the standard size, the B size. So even though that task chair does raise and lower, it doesn't go high enough for very tall people. They need type C. Doesn't go low enough for very short people. I need the size A chair. And of course, it doesn't do any good to lower your chair if the work surface in relation to your chair cannot also be ergonomically set to the right space. So think about what you need. Think about how you can accommodate the needs of others, whether it's in your home. Think about school settings. If you have children in school, are they sitting in ergonomic classroom environments, or are the chairs a one size fits all solution? Think about your own workplace. Think about how you can be an advocate for others. If you are an architect or an interior designer, ask more of those questions of your clients and really think about how you can create inclusive, supportive work environments for everyone. That's the thing I really love about these cards. I do shuffle, so I never know which two I'm going to get. And sometimes it's like, what do these two things have to do with one another? And in figuring that out, I really do learn a whole lot. And I hope you are too. So make sure that you like and subscribe if you really love this kind of content, if you'd like to get notices so you don't miss one. But also, when you do that, you really help support this work, this advocacy. You help more people to realize just how valuable the environment they surround themselves is and just how much it does impact their well-being. This allows architects, interior designers, building owners, members in a community to stand together and really invest in meaningful outcomes for the users of space. So thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate your interest and your support. I love reading your comments, and I will see you next time.